Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show. It's Tuesday, October 22nd. I am Patrick Daugherty, joined by Mr. Denny Carter as we head into Week 8, which used to almost be the halfway point of the season. I don't know what's more frustrating, Denny, that it's now 18 weeks or that it used to be an odd number of games. So you can never say when it was the halfway point, things of that nature. They're both bad systems, Denny. But it's a great league, though, with a lot of big news this week. A lot of it is unfortunately quite bad. Season-ending injury for Chris Godwin, seemingly a multi-week hamstring injury for Mike Evans, Brandon Aiyuk out for the season, Deshaun Watson out for the season, Jameson Williams out for 2 games somehow. I thought steroids were supposed to be 6 games or banned substances. Yeah. He had 2, which I guess suggests an unwitting ingestion of whatever he was taking. Tua Tagovailoa is returning this week, Denny. Will Dissley season. I was hoping you'd react to that one.
I've been waiting for that one. I did like in your show notes, you said choking and crying will Dissley season. So
there's not a lot to talk about coming out of that Cardinals-Chargers game, but we will. We'll also about Cooper Kupp seemingly returning Thursday night, but I almost wonder if the Rams might hold him out. Now they're leaking they might trade him. Yeah. TJ Hockenson hopefully returning Thursday night. Sam Darnold ever going to see QB1 volume ? But Denny, Jerry Jones, figure emeritus in the NFL, known for his wisdom, known for expounding on topics both big and small.
So what?
And saying stuff like in Week 8 that his coach is bad. Tell us what Jerry Jones did.
So Jerry does a radio interview on Tuesday mornings, and last week it went completely haywire. If you all read about it, he chastised the hosts, who apparently he handpicked, for asking him real questions about the state of the team, and didn't like that. And then he came on
real quick. Denny, he quite literally said, "Like, if you're a real journalist, you can ask me real questions." He's like on the air, he's like, "I hired you. Don't ask me about Rico being terrible." All right.
Right, I did. Yeah, I run this joint. Like you don't ask me hard questions. That's not what I signed up for.
It's funny because he actually does answer hard questions. He's like the only owner in sports who does.
Well, they were coming off that humiliating defeat against somebody, and so maybe he was just in a raw mood. But so he comes on Tuesday, and he says, I don't even know how that went viral. He seriously said, I didn't know that moment would go viral. I didn't know an NFL owner losing his ever-loving mind on the radio would go viral. But so he said that, and then he said, look, Mike McCarthy, he's calling, this is, I believe, a direct quote, bad plays and a bad scheme. And it made me think of your bit where the owner is just crushing the head coach, and the head coach is saying, "Excuse me, sir, I'm right here."
That's known as the Jared Goff principle, based on Sean McVay when he's talking about Jared Goff. And Jared, he's won a few games, or he's done some nice things, but we all know he's terrible. We're getting him out here to Detroit. We're bringing in Matthew. We're going to bring in Matthew. And Jared, I'm sitting right here, coach. And it's sitting right here, Jared Goff principle. Mike McCarthy's been sitting right here for quite a long time.
He has.
Got used to it with Aaron Rodgers. Gotten very used to it with Jerry Jones. Jerry was a very odd, the media is bad messenger. Because I think of all, say 128 North American sports owners or whatever the number is, he's the only one who ever answers probing questions.
And answers them in detail.
Yes. Way too much detail. Always.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for Jerry, it's as if someone came up to you or me and said, "Hey, tell me about your fantasy football team." And we would say, "Oh, hell yeah. I'll tell you about my fantasy team. Let me tell you how it started. On draft day, I was going to get this guy and that guy, and I got injuries." And we go on, well, the Cowboys are his fantasy team, And so he pays someone to ask questions about his fantasy team, but he doesn't want to talk about the bad draft picks that he made in August. Okay. And neither would I, honestly.
Much like our fantasy teams, he always somehow loses on the final play of Monday night.
Yeah.
Jerry Jones and the Cowboys have never not once suffered a shock, devastating defeat in prime time, except for this year where they're just getting buried early. They can't even lose late. Can't be any back-breaking Dak interceptions in the second half.
No.
You throw them in the first.
I mean, I don't even know what you make of anybody on this team anymore, because there is no neutral game script. It goes off the rails 2 minutes into the game, and then that's over. So there's it's very hard to analyze the Cowboys, I will say, and even for Jerry Jones, who's like, I don't know what to say anymore. Like, this team's a wreck.
I mean, CeeDee Lamb, the one good player, is just exuding Carl Havoc. I don't even want to be around here anymore.
and Troy Aikman came out the other day and said, look, CeeDee Lamb's running lazy routes.
Dude, CeeDee is defeated, like mentally defeated. He is, looking so he's on to 2025.
I mean, he's looking powerfully into being traded somewhere. Like he wants to play for the Chiefs so badly.
He's every route he runs, he attaches a 2025 to the beginning. Like, you gonna run a slant on this one? CeeDee, I run a 2025 slant, meaning he's saving it for next season. And if you throw him the ball, maybe he'll catch it, or maybe he'll bat it into the air for an interception.
We'll see.
Denny, a lot of interceptions from Baker Mayfield last night. Some completions. They were very, very costly completions, though. Speaking of Troy Aikman and Joe Buck were absolutely begging the Bucs to just give up on the game. It was 41-31, a minute and a half left. They had gotten a touchdown, but it was like the ultimate, like, dude, just like give it a rest, man. The game's over. And then usually in those situations, everyone's like, why is so-and-so still playing? Like, get him out of the game. They don't get hurt. Chris Godwin was still playing last night, and he did get hurt. And one of those really, really bad injuries, the kind they could not re-show the replay of. He's out for the season. Crushing career blow for a guy who took 2 years basically to get back to normal from a torn ACL. Chris Godwin might never be the same. The Bucs offense might never be the same because Godwin's out. Mike Evans, who was playing through a hamstring injury. I mean, you want to talk about a vivid hamstring pull.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I mean, I was blurbing about that this morning, and I called it a multi-week injury, and I felt like I was being very, very conservative there.
Well, you're probably not, because Mike Evans, like, he's played half his career through hamstring injuries. Somehow.
Yeah, that's true.
But seemed like a bad one.
Mm-hmm.
Godwin's out. Mike Evans is probably out several weeks. What is the fallout of this receiver ruin in Tampa? There's a lot of remembering some guys in this Bucs receiver core. One of them is a rookie, Jalen McMillan. Then there's Sterling Shepard. There's a lot of, like, who's the third guy? Why am I forgetting the third guy? The third new Bucs receiver who pops up for random targets.
I Sterling Shepard, McMillan, and that's all I wrote up for today.
Whatever. Tell us about what's going to happen now that the two actual good receivers are out. Denny. Trey Palmer,
yeah, who seemed to have in the summer sort of fallen out of favor with the Bucs, and
we'll come up with the third name. We'll just edit the third name in and post. All right. That's what we always do on this.
Obviously, we'll do that. And then, McMillan seemed to be the interest of the coaching staff in Tampa in the summer. But just to get back to Godwin and Evans, that everybody knows that they take up a large chunk of everything in this passing game. But just to put some numbers to it, they've seen a combined 56% of the total air yards and 46% of the targets this year. So it's a huge blow. I think it probably doesn't make Baker Mayfield super startable anymore. Like, you were pretty confident in starting him. Now he's going to have to get by with a lot of checking down. His air yards per attempt has plummeted over the past couple weeks anyway. So that's not great.
I hope I don't interrupt your train of thought too much. Baker Mayfield, though, is currently the QB2 by average points. Insane.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the rushing has to do with that as well. But so, talking about Jalen McMillan, he's the one I'm most interested in here as far as the receivers go. In the first 2 weeks of the season before he suffered an injury and missed several weeks, McMillan saw 27% of the air yards, which is really solid, 11% of the targets, but you can't be too picky there with a rookie. Last year in the Washington Huskies offense, McMillan was a close second in yards per route run to only Rome Odunze. So productive guy, somewhat efficient guy. He would be, I think, the inheritor of the downfield role. Mostly Sterling Shepard would be the scammy option. And then you have guys like Cade Otton, Rashod White, who are going to vacuum up a lot of short area targets in this offense.
Well, it's what Cade Otton was already doing last night. We got to 100 yards. Cade Otton had already kind of been percolating too. So there might be Cade Otton, top 12 tight end rest of season, Denny. It was already kind of trending that direction.
First, I would suggest that K-Dot and stop catching the hospital balls that he's being thrown.
Ooh, yeah, that was Baker was on a mission last night.
K-Dot needs to make better career decisions with what he's doing out there. But I think easily top 12 PPR. It's just total scam, but we can get by with that. He's running all the routes. It's a profile that we see sometimes crop up where it's a deeply inefficient player, but the volume of opportunity is so much that he can't help but be a producer for fantasy.
Do you think Jalen McMillan will get into the top 36 in PPR wide receiver?
I do. I'm maybe too confident in this, but I like McMillan's chances as long as Evans and Godwin are both out, which I wouldn't be surprised if that's at least 2 or 3 weeks here. Godwin's done for the year, but I'd be surprised if Evans is able to return in a couple weeks. I think McMillan becomes really interesting, and it depends on if he gets any of the easy stuff, any of the easy button stuff, right? He's going to see downfield shots, and that's cool. It's also volatile. It's going to end up with a lot of despair yards, and we're going to say, oh, well, he led the league in air yards, and he caught one ball for 14 yards. While Sterling Shepard, produces more, but his profile is more interesting. I'm very into him off the waiver wire.
So McMillan, you may be wondering how in the world we're talking about McMillan being the top 36, seeing as he has 6 catches all year. But partly because he was commanding targets is a bit strong, but weeks 1 and 2, he was getting targeted. He had 2 to 3 targets. Then he got hurt. But then he came back last night and gets 8 targets. Well, he didn't come back last night. He came back in week 6. But where he was really thrust into action last night, he commanded 8 targets. Just seems like he's the best hybrid of floor and ceiling, so that it is. I mean,
yes,
ceiling might not actually exist for any of these guys, but Sterling Shepard is going to make Wan'Dale Robinson look dominant, basically, but he's going to get Wan'Dale Robinson type targets, I think. So he's top 48 relevant. But Jalen McMillan is where we're going to place a top 36 bet. I mean, they're probably also going to run the ball more, Denny. But now this is turning into like a nightmare 3 running back rotation. I mean, nightmare is a bit strong. Rashod White was still the clear lead last night. Bucky Irving was still the clear number 2. But Sean Tucker was involved as the number 3. Any words of wisdom on this Buck backfield?
Yeah.
Are we worrying about maybe a little too much about Sean Tucker just getting a few carries? Like, it doesn't really matter, I guess. But what's the state of this backfield?
Headed into week 7, I didn't think Sean Tucker was such a big deal because, he's still an injury or 2 away from being like a reliable fantasy option. He should be picked up, but like, what do you do with him? I mean, there's nothing to do with him. Last night against the Ravens, Rashod White led the backfield with 10 rushing attempts. Bucky Irving had 9. Tucker had 5. Of course, to complicate matters, Tucker averaged almost 6 yards per carry, which was way more than the other 2. So nevertheless, he is good. He is good. That's the thing. Sean Tucker, good. Does it matter? Not right now. As far as pass catching goes, Rashod White led the backfield with 42% route rate. Irving was at 35%. Of course, White caught 6 of 6 targets, including 2 touchdowns. Tucker ran 15% of the routes, all 2 targets. So that was more split up than I thought too. And Rashod White's end of game box score looks really good. I mean, you look at that thing. Oh man, I got 27 points, whatever, from Rashod White. That was fluky. That was a mirage. I think we have to be careful with him going forward. But look, Baker Mayfield, 6.2 air yards per attempt over the past 3 games. That's the lowest in the league, except for that guy named Patrick J. Mahomes the 4th.
Oh, yikes. I think Sean Tucker, what it kind of boils down to is that, he's not creating any fantasy value of his own, but he is affecting the other guys' fantasy value, basically. He's the classic one of those guys where he feels important since he's on the field, but it's not anything that'll ever be useful unless they get hurt, of course. But it's more about the fantasy values he is hurting than the fantasy value he's creating. Denny's Rashod Bateman creating wide receiver 4, maybe even wide receiver 3 fantasy value. There have been a few weeks in a row where kind of was starting to look like this time it counts with Rashod Bateman. Last night it counted more than ever. 121 yards and a touchdown on only 4 targets. He's cleared 4 targets only twice all season. He's cleared 5 only once. Mm-hmm. But he's caught 4 balls 3 games in a row. This is an offense that wants to run when it can. It's been passing a lot the past month. Is Rashod Bateman beginning to become an actual factor in 12-team league fantasy?
Yeah, I think so. But, I don't really truly. I need to actually add him to the regression files because folks need to check themselves on Bateman. So he saw a 20% target share against the Bucs. 20% target share. That's awesome, man. It's 4 targets. Okay. He's averaging almost 19 yards per catch this season. That's not going to last. And he's tied, like I said, tied for the team lead in targets last night, but this team, actually doesn't really pass it all that much because Lamar runs a lot. So the Ravens are 8% below their expected pass rate this year. They rank 20th in total pass attempts. Bateman is an air yards monster. 30% of the air yards over the past 3 weeks. That can work, but I don't think he's a starter in a 12-team league.
It can work, and he's a borderline wide receiver 4, I would say. Despite the limited volume, it is a valuable role. Being the Lamar Jackson downfield guy, it's a role they've really been struggling to fill in recent years. And they were so desperate. In week 1, it was filled by Isaiah Likely. But they don't have the receiver depth. It was hugely unclear who was going to get targets, who was going to make plays down the field opposite Zay Flowers. Rashod Bateman is actually doing that. And I do think, I totally agree with you. It's not going to be more than 4 or 5 targets most weeks. But I think he's the classic profile of a wide receiver 4, where you're not getting mega usage, but that when he is actually catching the ball, this is the kind of stuff that maybe flips matchups. And he's not an ideal wide receiver 4 because the 0 is all too real of a possibility. But so is the 70-yard catch. And so I think he's somewhat viable as a really volatile low-end wide receiver 4. That's what I'd say. The best ball bros need him maybe more than this. This guy is bank examiner holy grail, Rashod Bateman for the best ball bros for several years running now. Bank examiners love it. It's clickbait. Bank examiners love him, but you hate him. That's been Rashod Bateman. We can't get out of our skis with Rashod Bateman despite our best ball needs. Mark Andrews, is he back? Talk about a guy who's only getting 4 targets, but he's been doing more with them lately. What's the latest on Mr. Mark Andrews?
I don't know if he's back. 57% route rate last night. He led the team with 4 targets. Isaiah Likely ran 71% of the routes against Tampa. He saw 3 targets. Just so happened that Andrews saw caught the 2 short touchdowns, which helps. Certainly helped me in one league, but where I had to hold on. I had no choice but to hold on to Andrews, and
you had no choice but to hold on to Andrews for a 3rd week.
For a 3rd week in a row, and it paid off. So sometimes that happens, but really, I honestly think we need to be careful with everybody in this Baltimore offense because Lamar's rushing. The fact that they're not exactly pass heavy, even when they should be or can be.
Even when they are, they're not.
Yes. Well, except for week 1, where the game script got totally out of control and Lamar dropped back 40 plus times and threw 30 plus passes. But that doesn't happen. You cannot bank on that on any given week.
To your point, he's averaging 300 yards thereabouts the past 2 weeks, and he's averaging 24 attempts the past 2 weeks.
So. And that's hot. That works. So you're super happy if you have Lamar in redraft and this is working, this is going well, and he has that weekly floor, which is supported by his rushing, and then you add 300 yards on top of it. It's awesome. But to bank on, to depend on any of these guys going forward, it's going to be a headache.
It's going to be a headache. The fake rumor tweet I just read, I'm going to send it to you and Adam, but then I'm going to get ready to take a short break.
Okay.
We'll be right back after this. 2 storied franchises renew their rivalry on Sunday evening. Find out if Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys can get back on track after their bye week when they face off against Brock Purdy and the 49ers. Coverage of the matchup begins at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on NBC and Peacock. This one's too dumb to read on air. I'm not going to read it on air.
Yeah, it's pretty dumb.
Real dumb. But we're reading rumors, folks. That's what we do. We podcast and we read rumors from aggregator accounts.
Not a bad job.
Not a bad job. Tell you what is a bad job, Denny, is being the 49ers trainer this year, man. So many injuries in San Francisco. A team that ran really pure on injuries last year is not running pure on injuries. Not that Brandon Aiyuk's injury was like an injury-prone type of thing. Just horrible, horrible luck. Really gruesome injury. The fallout is Aiyuk is out for the year. Deebo Samuel's in the hospital with pneumonia. Deebo, I was like, man, dude, why is this guy on the sidelines? Like, I didn't articulate this, but it was like, this guy looks like he has pneumonia. And
really?
He did have pneumonia. He looked not well on Sunday. So Aiyuk's out for the rest of the season. Deebo's out probably a week or two. 49ers are in crisis. They keep losing. Are we prioritizing Jauan Jennings, who had dropped well under 50% rostered? He had been dropped kind of across the board on more casual services like Yahoo and ESPN. Or Ricky Pearsall, the first rounder, he comes back. It was an emergency circumstances, but he was running a route every play. He was operating out of the slot. Both, I think, should be added. But are we telling people to prioritize getting Jennings back on their rosters or taking the upside flyer on the first rounder, Ricky Pearsall?
I'd say Pearsall. I watched most of your Monday Q&A with Kyle, and I think he sided with Pearsall as well.
He did. Which, I don't know. I don't know about you Zoomers.
Yeah, no, it is a Zoomer thing. I will say that. But I'm joining hands with my Zoomer brother, and I'm saying that I like Pearsall because they have no choice. First of all, like I know you made the point, like where Kyle Shanahan, I was going to say Dvorak, but he doesn't coach the Niners. Kyle Shanahan,
he should.
He should. I mean, and why isn't anyone talking about this? I don't know. Shanahan likes to haze his receivers for 2 to 7 years before they finally get a chance.
Say for 2 to 7 contracts.
Yeah.
Brandon Aiyuk's on his second contract, and he resumed hazing him to begin the year.
The hazing continued for Aiyuk this year. But I think he has no choice. And I think the fact that he was pretty much a full-time player in his season debut last week, I think that is a strong signal that he's going to see a lot of usage in this offense. Now, he's the more stable option, I think. Jennings has more of a downfield sort of high variance profile. And that's that,
which is weird though. I mean, because I just used to envision him as a slot guy. Like, it's kind of, wasn't Pearsall playing in the slot on Sunday too? I just
mostly, I think it was 65%.
I wonder, will that get reversed? What kind of receivers?
It could.
I don't remember.
Shanahan likes to draft guys where you can use them anywhere. And so I wouldn't be surprised if Pearsall's slot usage dipped. I also wouldn't be surprised if he ran like 98% of his routes from the slot going forward.
Producer Adam is giving us a tidbit where, remember, they traded up for Pearsall, but dude, it doesn't matter. Shanahan traded up for Dante Pettis and then didn't play him for 3 years. I mean, he hates everyone he signs or drafts.
They traded up for Trey Lance and he like almost intentionally undermined Lance's career from day one.
I know, it's so crazy. I really don't think. I do think Shanny is just going with the win this time. But weird things happen when there are in-game injuries, and it's a very good sign that the rookie was just thrust into the fire. But I would not be surprised if with the week to game plan, Shanny reviews the field. Like, Pearsall ran the wrong route twice. Guess who's getting every route this week? Jacob Cowing or whatever that guy's name is. And so I would not say there's no chance of a rug pull.
Yeah.
I would not say there's no chance of a rug
pull. No, and Jennings is not going to get the rug pull.
Say there'll be no that exactly. You finished my thought for me. No chance of a Jennings rug pull.
No. He's in there. He's running all the routes. He's going to see a good number of targets, although, it kind of depends on how they prioritize Kittle and whatnot. But yeah. I mean, there is a scenario where it's like Ronnie Bell is the wide receiver 1.
I know. Seriously, like, we're mostly joking, but we are not entirely joking. And you could be like, well, yeah, dude, weird stuff happens in in-game injuries. He trusted the rookie. I just do not take what you saw on Sunday for granted. I am adding Ricky Pearsall wherever I can. Like, the upside is it's a first-round pick and a guy who they trusted immediately. So, of course, you add him. Just do not count those chickens before they hatch, basically. And I am ranking Jauan Jennings. So that is the only hedge I'm making. I'm adding Pearsall, but I am ranking Jauan Jennings somewhat comfortably ahead of Pearsall this week.
Yeah, I think that probably makes sense. I'll say that's fair. Is what I'll say.
Fair. Yeah.
There was something I wanted to mention here, and now
Cowing, Ronnie Bell. 49ers could go mega run heavy too. We could see a lot of Isaac Garundo this week, Denny.
Yeah, I know what it was.
They're in hell.
Yeah, well, they are. And I actually wrote up the entire 49ers offense in the regression files if folks want to check that out, because, man, they are running cold on touchdowns. Everything else is pretty much in line with what we're used to in Kyle Shanahan. They're first in yards. They're third in first downs. They're second in the rate of possessions that end in scores, only second to the Commanders. So, they're moving the ball. They're just not punching it in. And that makes me even want to be even more aggressive on picking up Jennings, on picking up Pearsall.
I'll say this, not to make the most unhelpful comment ever made.
Okay, but go.
But this is why the 49ers had to win the Super Bowl last year. I'm dead serious. They ran so pure on injuries and they ran so pure on efficiency. It was one of those years where they got there and they just had to seal the deal, and they gave the game away, and because they were never going to run that pure again. So I do think, like, Brock Purdy should not have only 9 touchdowns, but he should not have had 31 last year. And the 49ers were like touched by God last year, basically, in the luck and efficiency departments. And that was never coming back. And the injury. And man, this is extraordinarily unhelpful, but they are going to be haunted by not winning that game.
Yeah. They kind of Bills-esque in losing 2 Super Bowls that they could have won against.
The ghosts of Andy Reid's past, right, come to Kyle Shanahan's dreams. Like, yeah, you probably should have beat us that one. we didn't really particularly care about that one.
Oh my God.
And we still won.
Jeez.
Would have beat us if I were you. If I were the Cleveland Browns, I would start Jameis Winston over Dorian Thompson, Robinson, Denny. And, even before Deshaun Watson got hurt, it was one of the biggest social media talking points of the day Sunday. Like, why are the Browns being this petty and deactivating Jameis Winston?
Yeah.
The theory, my theory is that they wanted to just they knew they're a bad team. They traded Amari Cooper. There's going to be garbage time. There's going to be meaningless fourth quarters. Let's see what the young guy DTR can maybe do when we're getting blown out. Now that the starter is actually hurt, I think it will be Jameis Winston assuming starting duties. You might already know that by the time you listen to this podcast. They could have announced it or leaked it by then. But so despite those shenanigans, I do think it'll be Jameis starting, DTR backing up, because now DTR can get in the game in the second half anyway. We've been calling for Jameis Winston for weeks. The offensive line is a wreck. The skill core is a wreck. But Jameis is Jameis. He's not going to be a QB1. As we saw in New Orleans, maybe early career Jameis magic is kind of gone. And his reputation is such that coaching staffs spend their entire time with him now, like not allowing him to be Jameis. He will not be Jameis. Like, just check down. But what is the meaning of all this to me?
I actually read an ESPN piece on what the Browns might do at quarterback. And Stefanski is at least playing the game where Dorian Thompson-Robinson is the presumed starter.
Give it up. Stop.
I wouldn't dismiss it completely because
they want the pick.
Yeah, right. I mean, they want Shedeur Sanders, right? So they're going to make sure that they get him. And I mean this. But then again, if you're Stefanski, I mean, you're not going to be coaching next year. So what do you do?
I think it will be Jameis. I will say, yeah. There's a non-0% chance it's DTR. I do think it'll
which changes everything. Like I want to be aggressive on like David. Like we're in a guillotine league, right? David Njoku's on the waiver wire, and I just
cut him loose a week ago, by the way, because I had to. It's a long story. He's there because of me.
Oh well, that was a huge mistake on your part. Yeah, I mean, I would sacrifice a toe for David Njoku right now if I knew Jameis was starting. I wouldn't want him at all. I wouldn't even want to be within 10 miles of David Njoku if DTR is starting. So it changes everything. And like with Joe Flacco, a Jameis Winston offense is a pass-heavy offense. There's just no way around it. We saw it last week.
Attempts are a quarterback stat.
Continue to play out week after week. It helps that the Browns defense is awful for some reason.
Well, awful strong. They're
bad. I mean,
they're still good, but they're in nonstop bad situations. They're bending and break. Every time they bend, they break now, basically.
So yeah, that equation, I think they're getting it wrong. You want to bend, but you don't want to break, and they've decided to do both things.
Well, they're in a situation where you're bent so much when the offense can't score that breaking is inevitable, basically.
Yeah. My suggestion would be just don't bend. But maybe
I would simply force a 3 and out every series.
I mean, have they considered it? I don't see anybody talking about it. Anyway, so if Winston is in, we're talking high volume offense. That's great for Njoku and all the rest of these pass catchers.
Well, here's the deal, though, Denny. Here's the deal.
Okay.
Again, weird stuff happens in game. I'm serious. I'm serious, folks. You can look it up. Not a joke. Not a joke. Look it up. I'm dead serious. But weird stuff happens with in-game injuries. Cedric Tillman somehow took the lead. There was not even an injury in the receiver corps, but the quarterback was injured. Tillman was I think it's probably honestly the classic Cedric Tillman and DTR had a lot of chemistry from the scout team or whatever. And so where I'm going with this is that after Amari Cooper was traded, it seemed like a situation not even Jerry Jeudy could mess up. And Jerry Jeudy catches one ball in week 7. It's basically, can we actually trust Jerry Jeudy? I'm ranking Jerry Jeudy ahead of Cedric Tillman this week. Do you think that's wise? How should we be treating and prioritizing these Browns receivers?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned both guys in the regression files. Jerry Jeudy coming into week 7 had seen about 40% of the team's air yards over the 3 previous games, 23% of the targets. It was a huge letdown. Tillman led the team in air yards and targets and everything. I don't really know where that came from. I mean, Tillman hasn't had any playing time this year.
It's the scout team thing, man, right? It's got to be it's got to be DTR and Cedric Tillman are like Shaq and Kobe on the scout team.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah,
that has to be it.
I mean, Jeudy ran the most routes of any pass catcher for the Browns. Yeah, I know. I mean, so
can this guy get a dog level implant?
No, I mean, we have a Jackson Smith and Jigba situation with Jeudy.
Well, hold on. The one key difference is JSN does occasionally produce.
So does
Jeudy. Never even produces, man. Like ever.
I don't know. I would flip that. What you just said. I would say at least Jeudy produces sometimes because JSN doesn't do anything.
Stop. He might this week. DK Metcalf's hurt. I think we might talk about that later.
It won't matter. It was Jake Bobo is a lock to out target and out everything JSN. It's a lock.
I'm ranking Tyler Lockett ahead of JSN.
Yeah. No, man. I mean, it's not even close. I don't even know if JSN's playable. Anyway,
man.
I know.
So I keep joking, quote unquote, joking about Christian McCaffrey getting the stem cells injected into his Achilles. We need to inject some dog levels into Jerry Jeudy.
To Jeudy, you said?
To Jerry Jeudy. If I were Jerry Jeudy, I would simply take over one game ever in my NFL career.
I'm sorry. I thought we were on JSN because I was going to mention that I would think that JSN would respond to Geno Smith because let me tell you, I've watched a lot of Seahawks this year. My guy Geno, he is scary as hell.
He's angry.
Yeah. He is. I mean, he is Marino level frightening when a guy makes a mistake. And it's crazy because usually you have to be like a Hall of Fame talent in order to dress people down on the field and like humiliate your teammates. Geno, obviously not a Hall of Famer. He's humiliating his teammates every single play on the field. That guy is mad.
Well, it's because you think this is a game to you, young man. This is my life. It took me 10 years to get this second chance, and I'm not going to waste it type of deal. And Geno, too,
absolutely
seems to have like a sky-high football IQ. He's always on Twitter, like being like, ball idiot. Tweeting at people like he really knows ball. And so if you're out there not knowing ball, he's going to yell at you.
Oh, man.
And also, this means something to me.
I don't know how what the relationship is off the field between Geno Smith and Noah Fant, but I can tell you on the field, Geno, he hates Noah Fant.
Well, I mean, to be fair. It's like a guy with no dog level.
I mean, yeah, like Noah Fant. When did he get slow? Like he's so slow. He came into the league, and all I heard was like clearly the fastest tight end of all time.
That's good. There's no such thing as a fast tight end. Let's be real.
That's true.
If you're fast, guess what position you're not playing?
That's funny.
Guess what position
yeah. Greg Dulcich fast. Sure.
Yeah, give me a break, man. Yeah. So, Geno, he's the crying Michigan fan. This bleep means something to me in real life, and if it doesn't mean something to you, he's going to yell at you about it because he's not getting a third chance. You might get a second chance, Jason. Geno's not getting a third chance.
No. Anyway, I do think, getting back to the Browns, I do think Jeudy should be ranked above
We were talking about the Browns.
We were talking about the Browns.
What's going on?
But I think Njoku, at least with Jameis under center, I think Njoku functions basically as the wide receiver one.
Yeah, 1,000%. Jeudy, you get 1 week ahead of Cedric Tillman, man. You get 1 week.
That's it.
Yeah, it is truly a 1 week type situation. It's a 2 week situation for Jameson Williams, who keeps getting suspended for totally random stuff. First, gambling on the game. The one rule every athlete knows you cannot break in professional sports. And now a 2-game PED suspension, which I mentioned in the league, it's usually 6 games. 2 games, I think, suggests like, dude, I swear to God, it was one of those weird, what's the supplement store?
Yeah. Vitamin Shop?
No, Vitamin Shop is GNC. Vitamin Shop, I think, is a tier below even GNC. So he was probably at Vitamin Shop. And the guy, someone made this joke. I think it was Ian Hartitz. So he had one bad game and went to GNC and asked the clerk for some of the questionable stuff in the back. And I think that's might have what happened with JMO. JMO, though, the targets have been trending downward. The catches had already been trending downward. It's kind of like the snaps had gone from 90% to 75%. Like Khalif Raymond had been popping up. Tim Patrick had been popping up. Kind of like the Lions maybe knew this was coming. So he hadn't been producing a whole lot the past month, Denny. So is there any real fallout from this Jameson Williams suspension? Like maybe, I don't know, reviving Sam Laporta?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what it is. I think it's just crazy target share for St. Brown. And then this is the chance that, for Laporta to be relevant for 2 weeks. It's really bleak with Laporta. I looked into the data and I'm not seeing a lot. I'm not seeing a guy who's like, oh yeah, like he definitely regression's good. The positive kind of regression's coming his way. No, it's not. I really don't know what to say about Laporta, but look, you take away Jameson Williams, who I know last week didn't see a lot of opportunity, but he had been seeing a lot of opportunity, and relatively speaking, and that goes to somebody. So maybe Tim Patrick a little bit, and then Laporta.
Laporta, my only theory is that he's just nowhere close to 100% healthy. Where he's kind of got like a Tony Pollard or Kyle Pitts deal going on.
Yeah,
he had the injury at the end of last season. He was on the injury report a few weeks to begin the season.
Yeah,
my guess is that he's just not moving well, and that's the real problem with Sam Laporta. I mean, I'm not a film guy. Like, you see there, his hip caught.
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean? I don't know. What do you mean his hip caught? What am I supposed to know what that means?
Sounds bad. It sounds like me. It sounds like my golf swing.
So yeah, we'll see what happens. Are we holding JMO in 12-team leagues?
Are we holding JMO? Yeah.
I am.
I mean, I have him on a couple 12-team leagues. I'm teams. I'm gonna keep him. Yeah.
I'm holding. It's deductive. It's only 2 weeks, but there could be 2 very important weeks, and he hadn't done anything the past 2 or 3 weeks. But I'm still holding him. Denny Tua Tagovailoa appears to finally be back for Week 8. It's not officially official, but it seems close to official. I mean, I think our listeners are pretty smart. They can guess what the impact this is going to be, or the Dolphins will, for one, no longer be one of the 2 or 3 worst offenses of the decade. But what will the impact of Tua Tagovailoa returning to this offense be?
First of all, his defiance during that press conference. I mean, I don't know how you interpret it. I was like frightened by it.
I will not to go old school football guy. Listen, man, they know the consequences at this point, and this is his life. Like, you can argue it's a foolhardy decision, but like, he's not under any illusions, and it's his decision to make.
I mean, he comes out and says, "I love this game. It'll be the death of me," or to the. Oh
death yeah. Ooh, yeah. I thought you were talking about the Guardian cap thing, which is also seemingly not smart.
Well, but the Guardian cap, there is no data to suggest the Guardian cap works, so that's it is what it is. But
yeah, I would have maybe laid off the death.
The mention of death when you're talking about brain injuries. He was wearing sunglasses in the dome against the Colts. I don't know, man. I'm gonna have a pit in my stomach watching this guy drop back to pass. And God forbid he ever leaves the pocket. So
he's never leaving the pocket again.
Yeah, I don't really know how he's gonna function.
I mean, truly not trying to be funny. He left the pocket once and got concussed. I think he wanted to scramble more this year, and that's out the window.
Yeah, and so that's bad for this offense. I mean, Anyway, we'll talk about the Dolphins here. In week 1, with Tua, remember he got hurt in week 2. In week 1, they were 3% over their expected drop back rate. Since then, they've been 11% under their expected drop back rate. So it's huge difference as far as volume goes. Just to show you what that means, Tyreek Hill, 23% target share without Tua this season. It has led to, let me check my notes, nothing for fantasy. If it should all get back to somewhat normal. I will say that Waddle and Tyreek Hill have their route rates around like 75%, which I don't understand quite what's happening there.
He's finally gone big brain mode. Mike McDaniel. Everyone's like, why isn't he adjusting? Well, guess what I'll do? I'll have a big receiver rotation for some reason.
Yes. I don't know. When Tua went down in week 2, I kind of felt like it would have been reasonable for the Dolphins to just close the chapter on this era of football. To be like, like we're going to trade Tyreek, like McDaniel's done. We have to. This is not going to work. And
McDaniel's getting fired. He is getting fired.
Yeah, he's finished. And he had one trick. And when everybody figured it out, he had nothing else. I know they signed Tua to a long-term deal. I don't really understand why they did that. This team is in for hell, I think, in the foreseeable future.
Wow.
Yeah. But for fantasy, should be fun.
Jeez.
Should be fun for fantasy. We should get a lot of targets for Waddle and Hill. That'll be fun.
Denny Carter, the fires of hell have never been hotter. Wow.
Lake of fire coming to Miami. That's what I say.
Can Jalen Waddle be a wide receiver too, man? Can he, by the way?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. That's all I need to hear.
And Achan is much more interesting with the functional quarterback, obviously.
So, man, yeah. The Dolphins, it'll be better. It won't be as good as it was the past 2 years, though. I do actually believe that.
Oh, no, there was something deeply wrong in week 1.
That's right. It was 6 quarters or whatever. The first 1.5 halves, though, that Tua played, stuff was not right.
The efficiency numbers crazy bad over those 6 quarters. I know. You can't make a determination if you don't have a 100 game sample. I know. Okay. But I'll also say that before the concussion for Tua, I was very concerned with what was going on with that offense.
We'll be right back after this. This Saturday night, number 3, Penn State continues their quest for a national title as they travel to Camp Randall for a showdown with Wisconsin. Coverage of the big battle starts at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on NBC and Peacock this Saturday night. Again, that's Penn State and Wisconsin.
What's the band that does the Saturday night song for NBC?
Well, it used to be G.E. Smith, and that was like 25 years ago.
No, Here Comes Saturday Night. Here Comes Saturday Night. Come on, Adam, help me out. Producer Adam.
I was going to say while Adam thinks of that, I was saying not to undermine NBC. Like, come on, I've never seen anything. Number 3, Penn State. Give me a friggin' break.
Fall Out Boy.
What? There's a Fall Out Boy song about Saturday night?
Are you serious? You don't know this song? It's the band and they're singing about Here Comes Saturday Night with NBC Big Ten stuff.
Oh yeah. I've been watching a lot of SEC football.
Right. Fall Out Boy. Right. Thank you, producer Adam, for confirming his Fall Out Boy loves to sing about Saturday night. Apparently, this is all the kids are singing about.
Penn State loves to be utterly fraudulent. See Wisconsin upset them Saturday night on NBC, Denny. Talk about fraudulent, the Cardinals and the Chargers. Horrible game over on the Plus last night, ESPN Plus, 15-14 Cardinal victory. I mean, talk about quarterback attempts or a quarterback stat. Justin Herbert's been slinging it around the yard more the past couple weeks. He has no one to throw it to, as evidenced by Will Dissley. I'm easily leading the Chargers in targets and target share. Is a Dissley season, Denny.
Yes. All right. So we talked last week about how coming out of the bye week, Greg Roman's Chargers were very strangely pass first. They led the NFL in week 6 in early down neutral pass rate, which was crazy because they were 31st before that. Now, week 7, I'm thinking, no, they're going to get back to establishment, right? No. Chargers were 4% over their expected pass rate against Arizona. over the past 2 games, now they're 3% over their expected pass rate overall. This is something. I mean, this is a development that we need to pay attention to for everybody in this offense, frankly. And that includes Will Dissley, the greatest Charger of all time. 11 targets, I guess Antonio Gates probably. 11 targets against the Cardinals. He now has 16 targets over the past 2 games. So Pat, last week this was percolating, and I for one, and as a tight end sicko, I am ashamed and embarrassed that I missed this. I missed this Dissley thing, because the one thing I know about Will Dissley is that he looks like a dad, and then the second thing I know is that coaches love Will Dissley. In Seattle, they would not take him off the field because they just love him so much. So Jim Harbaugh loves this guy.
I will say this was a Justin Herbert special where you look at his stats, 350 yards, 8.9 yards per attempt, and yet he doesn't throw for a touchdown. They lose the game. Like, it's a classic, like, look at this box score. He didn't turn the ball over. Like, how do they lose this game?
Yeah.
Like, how on earth was this not a victory? Which was just kind of always been the theme with Justin Herbert. But because, I don't know, man, it was a good box score, and they came kind of close to scoring. And Jalen Reagor had the Gerald Everett tribute where he fumbled the ball out of the end zone.
Yeah, that was
difficult.
Yeah.
How's he supposed to keep this up, though? It's kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah, to finish with Will Dissley, 75% of the routes against Arizona. He's actually been targeted on 29% of his routes this year, which is weirdly very strong. I think he's a thing. I don't see him like fading into, irrelevance for fantasy. I think he'll be a thing going forward. And this, I think the newfound pass heaviness makes him interesting and makes Ladd McConkey interesting. I
think what's happening, I kind of sort of suspected this might happen. I thought it would happen earlier in the season. Maybe it's because Justin Herbert missed so much at camp. There's only so much time you can spend around Justin Herbert and probably be like, we're going to be run first. We're going to feature J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. Like, it makes sense that they're passing more. The skill core is so absurdly, ridiculously, like almost impossibly bad.
It's so bad.
Ladd McConkey is not necessarily a part of the badness. He's been getting 6 or 7 targets, sometimes 7 or 8, basically every week. Cannot get the production, though. Is there any reason to expect that the usage might actually start translating to more production, Denny?
For McConkey?
Yeah, for Ladd, as he's known.
Look, he has 7 targets in 5 of 7 games this season. He's running about 65% from the slot. He should be kind of an easy button type option for a quarterback in Herbert, who's averaging about 7.5 air yards per attempt, which actually is not as low as you would think. It's nowhere near Mahomes, your boy. And his ADOT is 8.8, which is higher than I thought. I kind of think if the Chargers continue to turn up the pass rate over expected machine, that McConkey should be somewhat reliable for PPR purposes, but I don't think you're jamming him in a 12-team lineup.
Yeah, I think Ladd, I'm getting more excited. Like, I'm more excited about at least holding him. So we'll see what happens there. Marvin Harrison Jr., Denny, he rushes back from the concussion, and then it was kind of like, why? Why did you not just give the young man a week to get healthy? Because, decoy is a bit strong, but 6 targets, turns that into 21 yards, has not been above 40 yards since week 4, has 5 catches over his past 3 games. There's only 20 catches all year. He still has 4 touchdowns, 300 yards. Just what are we telling people about Marvin Harrison Jr.? Like, are we keeping the top 20 faith because of the demonstrated big playability? And because, they really need to be targeting him more. But what is the party line right now on Marvin Harrison Jr.?
Yeah, it's hard to put any faith or trust into a receiver who's averaging 29 air yards per reception and 13 air yards per target. Like, that is just too crazy volatile. And it's the reason that during the summer we were saying, hey, who's going to get a bunch of easy button targets? Malik Neighbors. Who's not is MHJ. And that's exactly what has happened. They have him on the boundary. They have him just sprinting deep. Occasionally it is going to hit. Like, we are going to see that maybe this week, maybe next week, whatever. And it's going to be cool and fun for fantasy. But otherwise, you're not getting anything easy with this guy until they change his usage. And honestly, I don't see any indication that the Cardinals are suddenly going to say, you know what, hey, we're gonna throw some bubble screens to this guy. We're gonna throw some 5-yard out routes or whatever. That's just not happening right now. That's Trey McBride season there. Okay, like underneath, or like Greg Dortch or whatever, right? And so we know that MHJ is going to be volatile, and you just have to proceed accordingly. Now, does he have upside? Of course he does. A top 20? I don't know. I don't think so.
I just feel like, how are we not going to get one of those reports that like the Cardinals want to move Marvin Harrison around the formation more? They want to force feed him targets earlier in the game to like get him going, get him feeling like he's part of the flow of the game, because the usage has just been so bad. I mean, maybe it's the player's fault. Maybe he can't run those kind of routes. Maybe he isn't comfortable in those areas of the field. But he has rate stats in terms of like air yard, conversion rate, and all that. He's like with the cardio all-stars, like Justin Watson, those kind of players, like the wind sprinters of the league. Like, he wishes he were Rashod Bateman right now, basically. And that is very concerning for like such a high-end lottery pick. And just kind of throw the guy at one bubble screen, like you said. Like, why are you making this so? And I wonder if it's Kyler. And Kyler like has been very like cagey about, it's not my job to give him the ball, as we infamously remember.
Yeah.
But I just feel like, how could you not change this guy's usage and try to get him easier looks? But
I mean, right. Hopefully it happens. I don't think that we can rely on that. I'm looking at where he stands as far as he's 13th in air yards this season with 575. That's a lot. Like that's a big chunk. It's actually just right around Malik Neighbors, honestly. So, but Malik Neighbors is seeing a lot of short stuff, and so that smooths it out. All the worst case scenarios for Harrison have come to fruition here, and he's being treated like Alec Pierce, basically.
Being treated like Alec Pierce. So like you pointed out, it's volatile usage, and then one problem too is that it's Kyler Murray is not exactly known for like downfield accuracy, and that's like a big problem. I think he's not having that bad of a year as a downfield passer, but now he actually kind of is. Yeah,
no, it's not good actually.
He's 26th in deep ball QB rating according to Pro Football Focus, which is kind of his MO. So it's really volatile usage, and you have a quarterback that is not good at converting those kind of targets.
Well, and also, I'm looking here. Only 11% of his attempts this year have gone more than 20 yards down the field. That's I'm not joking here. That's Jacoby Brissett territory.
Cliff Kingsbury, meanwhile, he's blowing people out with Marcus Mariota. Cliff Kingsbury, man. So we had you wrong, dude.
Say the line.
Totally exonerated.
Totally exonerated.
Yes, totally exonerated.
No one has been more exonerated than Cliff Kingsbury.
Totally. Yeah, maybe now he can start taking credit for Patrick Mahomes because for a while it was like you couldn't even have a winning season with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Now we're kind of back to guess who created Patrick Mahomes.
Oh man.
It was Cliff King. They would have won 0 games if he hadn't created Pat Mahomes out of whole cloth.
Cliff was right all along.
Cliff did nothing wrong.
He did nothing wrong.
Totally exonerated.
It was perfect play calling.
It was perfect play calling. Thursday night football is the Rams and the Vikings on a short week. We're running out of time on the show, but we're not running out of time to about Cooper Kupp, who we think is coming back. We thought he was coming back in week 7. Then the Rams were like, yeah, never mind. Now they're kind of like, well, he's going to play, but I don't know if we're going to get him the ball or whatever. Like, why would you think we would get Cooper Kupp the ball? That's kind of annoying.
That's funny.
That's very presumptuous of you. Like, so sorry.
Do you know ball? Do you know? Are you in the building with us?
Thought you might target Cooper. Well, that's where you thought wrong. You're on the podcast, and here I don't like to get short with the media. I'm usually very polite with the media, but why would you presume that I would target Cooper Kupp? And sorry, anytime I can do a shaman impression.
I wish I could do. I wish we could do that together. I need to work on it.
I have to do it, but one reason, Denny, that they might not want to target him that much because they want to keep him healthy, because there are reports now of the Athletics, Diana Rossini, that they are open to trading him. We'll see. I feel like it'd be complicated because of his deal and his injury history. But so let's just start with this week for Cooper Kupp. Can we trust him as a wide receiver 1 on this short week with the Rams being a little cagey on his usage?
I mean, probably not, but you got to play him. Like, if you have him rostered, you have been dying inside seeing him on the IR spot or whatever on your bench. You just play him. They really don't really have anything else in the passing game right now. But can we get a one-time Cooper Kupp to Kansas City? Can we get?
I know it's kind of Kansas City or bust if he gets traded. And the Chiefs operate very conservatively. The Chiefs are basically, in more ways than one at this point, like the Patriots of yore, where they're not just giving away picks. Like if you want to trade them Randy Moss, like they're not giving you a first-round pick, like even for Randy Moss. I don't think they did give a first-round pick for Randy Moss.
I don't think so.
Like where they just want to be sustainable. They want to win as many Super Bowls as possible. They're not making rash moves like the Rams did to get their Super Bowl. But like it makes so much. The Chiefs, if the offer's a second-round pick, like just do it, man. Like to trade a second-round pick for Cooper Kupp. Because where else even really comes to mind? I'm scanning through the teams here. I mean, maybe the Bucs, if the Bucs really want, because the Bucs have been kind of a surprise contender. That division is for the taking. So the Bucs could maybe make sense. Maybe the Cowboys, Denny, who they talk about a team that loves splashy moves, a team that really needs receiver. I mean, maybe the Chargers.
Not the Cowboys. Current Cowboys, they don't love splashy moves, but
the current is in like the past 2 or 3 years. Like it hasn't been that long since they traded for.
I mean, if they love splashy moves, then Big Dog would be playing for Jerry right now. But.
That's true. I mean, they acquired Amari Cooper though, like 3 years ago. So I could see the Bucs maybe as the dark horse. The Chiefs is the really obvious one. The Chargers maybe is a dark horse. The Cowboys.
Oh, I have one.
Get him to the Chiefs though. What is it, Denny?
Commanders.
Yeah, that would be a really, really, really good. There's a Cliff McVay connection there too, where they're buddies. So McVay kind of seems like he likes to do deals with his buddies too.
The Commanders should go all out right now. I mean, now the rib injury for Jaden Daniels complicates things a little bit, but this team would cook with Cooper Kupp.
The thing is, I don't know if anyone should go all out for Cooper Kupp, just to be totally honest, because the injury history.
It just never ends.
It's Michael Thomasian at this point. Yeah, it really, really is. I think they're gonna have a hard time getting a second-round pick for him.
Oh, I don't think there's any way they will get a second rounder. But if you're the Chiefs, I think you should. Yeah,
Adam points out I was pretty sure it was a fourth rounder. It was the Patriots gave up a fourth rounder for Randy Moss. So the Chiefs, they'd probably give up a fourth rounder for Cooper Kupp. But I doubt the Rams really take that at this point. TJ Hockenson maybe returning Thursday night. Seems like he is, Denny. Could we be trusted as a tight end one? Is it bad news for Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, things of that nature?
It's not great news for the rest of the pass catchers because this is such a low volume offense. I know can we just blend the
I was going to skip the Darnold thing, so actually just talk about it.
Yeah. So we're just talking about a low volume offense. I'm looking for it. 30th. The Vikings are 30th in pass attempts per game at 27.5. They're 28th in offensive plays per game, only 58 offensive snaps per game. Look, they're 3% over their expected dropback rate. So it's not like they're not run heavy. Like whatever they are, they're not run heavy. They're either balanced and sometimes they lean toward the pass, I should say. So if things loosen up defensively, like if their defense is not so suffocating going forward, we're going to see more play volume.
Defense, please.
I know. It's just something we did not throw into the equation, and nobody can get by this defense. Nobody. I mean,
they're elite. They're not going to regress either.
They're crushing. I think some defensive injuries might be the thing that would loosen it up. But yeah, so you're not talking about last year's Vikings where there was more volume to go around. And so, throw Hockenson into the mix and you're taking away a lot from everybody except for Jefferson, probably.
Yeah, I think Jefferson is probably immune to this.
I do too. I think so too. I mean, he's I think over the past 3 weeks, he's seeing a 41% target per route run share, which is wild.
It's totally insane. And yet you may still find people like Kyle Dvorak and I complaining nonstop to each other on Sundays. Like, I would give a lung for this guy to get 100 yards. What is it going to take to get this guy to the bonus?
Justin Jefferson is being targeted on one of every 2 pass routes, and you guys are whining about it.
Justin Jefferson, who scores every game and catches 6 passes for 8 yards every game, and kind of like, God, he sucks. Get him to 100 yards.
You're killing my team.
Yeah, my family is starving to death. Can this guy not just get 100 yards?
I thought I signed up for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns a week.
I was 142 yards a week is what Kyle and I had in mind with Justin Jefferson. But yeah, it's been an amazing season for Justin Jefferson. And Hawkins, I mean, even Jefferson might lose like a target a game, which would not be amazing. But, dude, we don't know what Hawk's health is, though. Hawk might just be kind of role player for a while. So
it is. I would say it is important to remember that this Vikings offense is, considerably over their expected drop back rate. So if things kind of go sideways, I don't see them leaning on the run, and that should be good for all the pass catchers.
Please just play bad defense once. The Chiefs started playing good. Patrick Mahomes, Zoomers don't know, used to throw for 5,000 yards every season. Then he got a good defense once, and now he throws more picks than touchdowns, and yet they get better every week.
Yeah, they get better with every pick.
They do. And one of my most viral tweets recently was the bleeper the Chiefs become. I think it was the bleeper the Chiefs are, the more unstoppable they become.
And you were right.
And I was never been more right about anything. Denny's right about a lot in his regression files. Check that out. And his Friday chats at noon Eastern on rotoworld.com and YouTube. And his funnel report, which comes out on Friday. And, of course, his game preview that he does with myself and Kyle Dvorchak on Thursdays. So check that out. So for Denny, I'm Patrick Daugherty. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back in a day or two.